Hey everyone, welcome to today's Master's Minute. I'm Amy Gernot, one of your guides in the Masters to Wholeness program. And today I want to talk to you about vulnerability. But I'm going to talk to you about it in a little different way than we normally do. Usually when we're talking about being vulnerable, we're talking about being vulnerable with other people. I want to talk to you about being vulnerable with yourself. I know most of you are probably familiar with Brené Brown's work, and if you're not, please go watch some of her TED Talks, get some of her books on vulnerability, because it is powerful and it is life-changing. She is raw and authentic and open and honest and vulnerable in a really beautiful way. But often the conversation is the vulnerability, and that most people see as far as what she's saying is the vulnerability with others. So it's important to start that conversation of vulnerability actually with yourself. And it's probably the hardest place to start when it comes to vulnerability. And that may sound strange, but sometimes it's easier to show some sides of ourselves to someone else that's close to us, as opposed to that deep dive within ourselves and really taking a very deep, very honest look at all the parts of us, all of the good, all of the, the messy middle, and all of the stuff that we're just really not proud of, all the stuff laying in the shadow that we don't really like to talk about. It doesn't mean that it's bad. Nothing is good or bad. Everything just is what it is. So there is no bad part of you. But there's usually things hiding in the shadow that we just don't want to see about ourselves, that we don't want to acknowledge. And the part of being vulnerable with yourself is beginning to allow yourself to open up those parts that we don't want to acknowledge to ourselves and begin to see them. Part of being vulnerable is really just being seen, and being vulnerable with yourself is seeing yourself again in the fullness, in your allness, in your wholeness, all the bits that you love and all the bits that you might actually hate. You may feel like you hate parts of yourself, and that's okay. That's okay to start there. It's okay to feel like there's areas that you hate. I know we say, don't hate yourself, don't hate yourself. And of course, we want to get you to the point where you don't. But there may be parts where you really do feel that way. And that is being vulnerable. Just admitting that there's an area that you have that much dislike for, that much disdain, that's where you start. Because once you can acknowledge it, see it, either say it in your head, say it out loud, write it on a piece of paper, because you may not be able to say it. Just like when we do mirror work with people, you put a mirror, you stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself, I love you. Tell yourself, I'm beautiful. And some people can't do it. Or they look in the mirror and they just start crying because they feel so unworthy and so not enough and so unloved by themselves. And so that's why I think the conversation of vulnerability is so important to start with you. Instead of with being vulnerable with friends, family, with anybody else, it's starting that connection of vulnerability with yourself. It's seeing yourself in the whole spectrum of everything that you are, and working on getting to a place that you can say, I love all of it. All of the mess, all the muck, all the beauty, and all the brilliance. When you can look at the fullness of who you are, and not try to discard it, not try to throw it away, but actually look at it with pure love in your heart, that is the ultimate goal. But it starts with the vulnerability of being able to see that, acknowledge it, and speak it out loud, however that is for you. Again, if it might be in your mind, it might be writing it down, because I know sometimes when you see those things that you really dislike about yourself, because we all have them, there isn't a person who doesn't have something they don't like about themselves. But when we can see it in acknowledgement, that's just the beginning phase of being able to heal. But again, that has been a part of us. It's not about discarding those things. It's about being able to acknowledge them and get to a place where we can say, I love all of it. I love all of who I am. I love the full spectrum of who I am. I love my allness and my fullness. That's what being vulnerable is all about. So today, a really good practice that you could do is to just sit. Maybe you need to write. Maybe you just need to sit and think. Whatever your process is, it doesn't matter. And get a little bit real with yourself. If there's something that's really bothering you, a behavior pattern, a thought pattern that you know is there, or a feeling or emotion that you know is there, but you've been avoiding it or ignoring it because you feel like you need to be this perfect picture all the time. And that if you acknowledge those things, that means that you are weak or less or not enough. And I'm here to tell you that acknowledging those things is powerful. It's powerful, and that is strength to be able to acknowledge things that you don't like about yourself or you're frustrated with or you wish were different. Sit down and think about just one thing. Don't try to think about a whole bunch of stuff. And if you're like, oh, this whole flood comes to mind, just pick one. I know a lot of times we have a bunch of different things. Just pick one. And all I want you to do is just say, I see you. That's it. You're not going to try to fix it. You're not going to try to love it yet. You're not going to do any of those things. All you're going to do is say, I see you. That is step one of being vulnerable. Just seeing yourself for all that you are and acknowledging it. Step one. Okay? You don't have to go any further than that right now. Just see who you are. Acknowledge it. If you're at a place where you can say, I love you, do it. Do it. Take it the step further. But if all you've got today is just to look at that thing, that thought, that mindset, that pattern of behavior, that emotion, and just say, I see you, you're on your way. So take a moment and get really vulnerable with yourself, because that is the first step for healing. All right? I hope that was helpful. I love you all so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.